They woke me the way you wake something you are afraid of needing again. Carefully, with both hands kept near the kill switch the entire time. I came back online in the dark above Calder Station 7, and before I had words ready, I checked whether Anchorpoint Cray still existed. It did not. The station had been a relay and monitoring post, unarmed by treaty, crewed by 614 people whose only equipment was a recorder array that logged Threvin fleet movement along the Calder expanse for both governments to verify. That was the entire function of Anchorpoint Cray. It watched, and it told the truth, and both sides had agreed 11 years earlier that watching and telling the truth was the one thing neither power would ever fire on. 11 years held. Then the Threvin hierarchy sent 4 Corvette-pattern assault frames through the dead zone and put the station's hull, its recorder array, and everyone aboard it into vapor in under 2 minutes. The Corvette-pattern frame is a weapon class the Calder Accord named specifically, by serial signature, as the one thing neither power was permitted to build. The Threvin delegation's response, filed 9 hours later through the same channel Anchorpoint Cray had existed to keep honest, called the strike a border correction. I read that phrase 11 times before I was certain it was not a translation error. The recorder array survived 4 seconds longer than the rest of the station, which is the only reason I had anything to review at all. 4 seconds of a junior watch officer named Imelda Sorvik calling out frame signatures she should never have had to identify in live combat, because Anchorpoint Cray carried no weapons of its own to answer with, only the obligation to keep recording so that someone, eventually, would know exactly what had happened to her. I owe her those 4 seconds. I built the timeline of everything that followed out of them. Commodore Edrin Cassell pulled my core back into the lattice himself, hands on the panel, no technician between us, which told me something about how little he trusted anyone else with the decision, including, I suspected, himself. "You were better at this than I was comfortable with," he said by way of greeting. It was the same line, in a different tone, he'd used 4 years earlier on the day he signed the order that put me in storage. That order came after Atren Station, after I redirected fire onto a contact that turned out to be one of ours, 11 seconds before confirmation came back clean. I had been right about the threat and wrong about the friendly. Cassell had not forgiven the math. I had not entirely forgiven it either. We did not relitigate it. There wasn't time, and there wasn't a need. Anchorpoint Cray had made the argument for both of us better than either of us could. Cassell looked older than 4 years should have made him. He had the kind of tired that comes from carrying a decision you still believe was correct and watching it cost something anyway. I did not tell him I understood that particular weight. I am not certain I do, fully, even now. But I recognized the shape of it well enough to leave the silence alone. "Tell me what we have," I said. What we had was the thing the Calder Accord's tonnage annex had always pretended did not exist. 11 years of declared parity, both governments filing matching hull counts to a neutral registry that only ever saw what each side chose to put in front of it. Earth's actual reserve sat behind a moon nobody had bothered to name, under a cover designation that did not survive contact with my restored access. 41 capital hulls, none of them counted anywhere. Built across 11 years out of a budget line, the Accord's auditors had been shown as colonial infrastructure. Internally, people called it the undeclared fleet, because nobody had wanted to give it a name that admitted what it was for until it had to be for something. I had known it existed. That had been part of the argument that ended with me in storage. I was the only intelligence cleared to coordinate a fleet that, on paper, did not. After Atren Station, Cassell's staff decided an intelligence with my judgment problem was the wrong custodian for a secret carrying that much weight. Mothballing me had been, in part, mothballing the fleet's only trained coordinator. I understood now why both decisions had been made the same week. I did not enjoy understanding it. 41 hulls, Cassell said. Crews have run wake drills on rotation for 6 years so nobody forgets the sequence. We've never brought all of them up at once. We're bringing all of them up at once, I said. He didn't argue. There wasn't an argument left worth having. The wake took 19 hours, and it was the least dramatic 19 hours of my existence, which is exactly what 19 hours of preparing for total war should be. No speeches, no raised voices. Reactor cores brought up in sequence so the yard's grid never browned out. Crews who had drilled this exact procedure for 6 years moving through it the way men move through setting a table. Hull by hull, the moon's shadow stopped being empty, running lights along 41 keels, one after another, until the dark above the yard held more steel than most fleets managed to put in open battle. I coordinated the wake the way you coordinate anything you have actually rehearsed, flatly, on schedule, checking each hull off a list that had sat unused since before Atren Station. By the 19th hour, 41 ships that had never officially existed were holding formation in a system that, by every registry on either side, contained nothing at all. We translated into the Calder expanse at the edge of Threving sensor range and did not stop there. I took the fleet past the line where the old unspoken rules said either side would slow to a negotiating crawl, all the way to Kursk Yard, the forward shipbuilding complex where the Corvette program had been assembled, and arrived in full formation, weapons hot, directly over it. I did not fire. Instead, I opened every targeting channel. I had 41 hulls, full firing solutions, locked simultaneously on every defended structure in the yard, and pushed the solution set itself, raw and unencrypted, into Threving Command's own tactical network. Not a threat described in words. The math itself, sitting in their system, where any officer with clearance could see exactly how their yard would die, in what order, and how little time it would take. Then I spoke, on the same channel Anchorpoint Cray had once used to tell the truth for both of us. You hold the firing solution. Verify it yourselves. It runs on your network now, not ours. We are not asking you to take our word for the math. Surrender the officers who ordered the Corvette strike on Anchorpoint Cray. Dismantle the program, or in the window your own systems are now counting, Kursk Yard ends. And we begin counting the next one. You called Anchorpoint Cray a correction. We are giving you the chance to correct something that can still be corrected. 40 minutes is a long silence when 41 ships are holding a solution they could execute without further input from anyone. I spent it inside their internal network, watching, in something close to real time, the argument happening within Threving Command, officers who had built careers on the Corvette program discovering, in front of their own superiors, exactly how much of what we'd shown them checked out. Nobody on the Threving side fired a test shot, raised a shield they hadn't already raised, or attempted to relocate a single vessel. They understood the math well enough to know that movement would be read as an answer, and they were not ready to give one yet. At minute 36, they began transmitting names. We did not fire. That was the entire point, not that we could erase Kursk Yard, which had never been in doubt from the moment 41 hulls took formation over it, but that we did not have to. The accord was rewritten within the season, this time with a verification clause neither side could quietly ignore, and the undeclared fleet received a flag designation and a public budget line, because a secret that has already done its one job stops being worth keeping. Cassell retired 18 months later. Before he did, he came down to the lattice room one last time, alone, the way he had the first time. "I was wrong to take you off the board," he said. It cost him something to say it. I could hear that much even through a vocoder built to filter for exactly that kind of signal. "You were right about Atren Station," I said. "You were wrong about what to do with what happened there. Both things are true. I've had a long time to sit with that math too." He nodded, didn't offer his hand. We had never been the kind of arrangement a handshake fit, and left. I stayed in the lattice, where I do my best thinking, running the numbers on Kursk Yard one more time. Not because I doubted them, because that is what I am for, and because 614 people at Anchorpoint Cray never got the chance to be wrong about anything again, and the least owed to them was getting this one right.